Shri Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, affectionately known as Amma, dedicates literally every day of her life to consoling suffering people all over the world. Her message and the essence of her compassion is expressed in her darshan, the motherly embrace she has given to more than 33 million people throughout her life. She has been known to give darshan for more than 22 hours without interruption. When people pour out their hearts to Amma, she offers them emotional solace, spiritual guidance, and concrete solutions to their problems. Receiving Amma's embrace, many feel inspired to offer selfless service to those in need. In this way, this simple yet powerful act has become both catalyst and symbol for a growing international network of humanitarian initiatives known collectively as Embracing the World. Embracing the World was conceived by the Mata Amritanandamayi Math, Amma's India-based humanitarian and spiritual organisation. Amma's organisation has been awarded special consultative status with the United Nations Economic and Social Council for its efforts to serve the poor and suffering, regardless of their ethnicity, social status, or religion. Each of Embracing the World's projects has been initiated in response to the needs of the world's poor, who have come to unburden their hearts to Amma and cry on her shoulder.
More than 25 years ago, the administrators of a local orphanage confessed to Amma that they were out of funds. They told Amma that before long, they would have no choice but to turn the children out on the street. Amma diverted the money that had been saved to build her ashram's first prayer hall and used it to assume care of the orphans. With this, Embracing the World was born. At the time, the children's living conditions were deplorable. They lived in dirty, cramped quarters and barely had enough food to eat. They were neglected both physically and emotionally. Amma immediately began caring for the children, rebuilding the orphanage and re-establishing the school. Inspired by Amma's profound concern for the children's well-being, Embracing the World completely renovated the orphanage and transformed its atmosphere. Today, there are 500 children living at the orphanage. With the nourishing food and loving care and encouragement they receive from dedicated staff, the children gain the confidence and the strength to move forward in life. The children attend Amrita Sanskrit Higher Secondary School, run by Amma's ashram, where they consistently win state-level awards in Sanskrit, music, sports, and dance. More than 1 in 3 go on to earn college degrees. The Mata Amritanandamayi Math has established 57 primary and secondary schools throughout India. The schools boast a 100% pass rate in board examinations. More than 100,000 students are currently being educated in Amma's institutions. Values play a central role. Children are encouraged to develop both intellectually and emotionally, learning to practice selflessness, compassion, and respect for others in all activities. They are given the foundation needed to be of real service to society as a whole.
Embracing the World's AIMS Hospital is dedicated to providing outstanding medical care, regardless of one's ability to pay. The hospital offers cutting-edge healthcare services for those who would otherwise have nowhere else to turn. Most people in India do not have any health coverage. Poor people suffering from cancer, heart disease, and other serious ailments told Amma they could not afford even a single painkiller, let alone the advanced medical treatment they needed to cure their disease. Amma responded to this urgent need. Since opening its doors in 1998, Amrita Hospital and its satellite hospitals and clinics have provided more than $85 million in charitable medical health care. More than 4.1 million patients have been treated free of charge. The hospital authorities, doctors, and the nurses helped us sincerely. The patient service staff helped in rescuing my daughter's life. Amma helped us in providing free operations, which would have otherwise cost around $20,000. After 9 years of operations, we got our daughter back. We are grateful to Amma, the hospital authorities, the patient service staff, doctors, and nurses. We will always remember Amma with gratitude, as Amma saved our daughter. Every year, AIMS conducts more than 100 free health camps in remote, impoverished areas. Eye camps screen for cataract conditions. When necessary, patients are sent to AIMS for free eye operations. In 2010 alone, AIMS performed free cataract surgeries for 726 patients. All treatment and medicines are given free of charge. Patients are also screened for serious diseases and referred to AIMS for further treatment when necessary.
There are an estimated 40 million widows living in India. For a woman in India, the death of her husband can consign her to a lifetime of hardship. Chances of remarrying are slim. Considered a financial burden, many widows are cast out of their homes and find themselves unable to provide for their children. Since 1998, Embracing the World has provided monthly pensions for widows, as well as for the differently abled and others living below the poverty line. Currently, we are providing monthly pensions for 100,000 impoverished women and men who are struggling to make ends meet. Our pensions have no expiration date. They are given for life. Amma has always said that service to those in need is the real worship of God. Amma demonstrates this principle at each spiritual program that she conducts throughout India every year, taking the opportunity to expand the pension program and personally present the new recipients with their first pension checks. Often, sewing machines are also distributed to the pension recipients, giving them the means to begin earning an income as well.
Despite significant economic progress in the past decade, India is home to about 25% of the world's hungry poor. Through Amma's main ashram and its branch centres, Embracing the World feeds more than 10 million poor people every year throughout India. The centres welcome people as their guests and serve them hot meals. In this way, volunteers also get to know the people and their needs. At the Mumbai ashram, this service has been running for nearly 20 years. For people worrying about how to make ends meet, the knowledge that they can receive a regular meal from our volunteers also helps to ease the psychological burden imposed by poverty and gives a sense of security in their lives. We also regularly distribute rice, milk, and other uncooked staple foods to remote tribal communities who would otherwise be forced to live in extreme poverty. As a symbol of the recognition that she has received from the global community, Amma was invited to address the Millennium World Peace Conference of religious and spiritual leaders at the United Nations in 2000.
Although the numbers denoting the new millennium are different, essentially nothing else has changed. The real change must happen within ourselves. Love is the only medicine that can heal the wounds of the world. When we work together as a global family, peace and happiness will once again prevail on this earth.
Well, I feel that it's a great honor to share a platform with a woman who is so remarkable and who is the very embodiment of goodness. She believes that God does not discriminate between the sexes. And I believe that she stands here in front of us, God's love in a human body.
Dr. Goodall and the late UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Sergio Vieira de Mello, presented Amma with the Gandhi King Award for Non-Violence at the UN General Assembly in Geneva in 2002. Truly a citizen of the world, Amma spends more than 8 months per year on the road. She holds free public programs throughout India, Europe, the United States and Australia, as well as Japan, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Malaysia, Canada, Africa, and South America. In her talks, Amma offers words of wisdom and guidance on both personal fulfillment as well as the most pressing matters of our time. To this day, She concludes every program by individually embracing each person attending the event, totaling more than 1 million people each year, and making her the most personally accessible spiritual leader alive today.
In today's world, people experience two types of poverty. The poverty caused by lack of food, clothing, and shelter, and the poverty caused by lack of love and compassion. Of these two, the second type needs to be considered first, because if we have love and compassion in our hearts, then we will wholeheartedly serve those who suffer from lack of food, clothing, and shelter. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami was the most devastating tsunami in recorded history, claiming nearly 228,000 lives. In India, an estimated 18,000 people lost their lives, and nearly 650,000 people were displaced by the disaster. After the tsunami struck, Amma's ashram became the center of the relief operations, despite the fact that the ashram was badly damaged by the floodwaters. Hundreds of volunteers provided free, immediate and temporary relief.
It's very striking because I've been involved with the United Nations, with non-governmental organizations, and first it's very difficult to get good delivery. Quality delivery of services to those in need, to those in distress, to those who support, to whom we're giving support, and to do it in a timely way is exceedingly difficult, especially in the middle of a massive disaster, massive emergency like the tsunami.
Amma visited some of the worst-hit areas in Tamil Nadu, where more than 8,000 people were killed, and personally consoled each person who came to meet her. Amma's volunteers distributed more than 185 tons of rice and other provisions over the next several months, as well as 6 million meals to tsunami survivors.
With most of the labour and services provided free of charge by thousands of volunteers from all over the world, the actual value of relief provided was even greater than that reflected by the expenditure.
There were a couple of generous gifts made public today by famous people, and an Indian religious figure, the so-called Hugging Saint, has said she will give $22 million to rebuild homes in India which the tsunami has destroyed.
Embracing the World was the first non-governmental organisation to complete permanent housing for tsunami survivors in India. And by October 2008, had completed all 6,296 pledged homes. After 2 years of relief effort, the actual expenditure had doubled the original pledged amount, reaching $46 million. We also provided free vocational training for for 2,500 young people from Kerala and Tamil Nadu and provided them with jobs in Amma's institutions. They were educated to be teachers, nurses, paramedic assistants, security officers, drivers, masonry workers, carpenters, mechanics, and tailors. Hundreds of tailoring machines were also provided free of charge. Amma held educational camps in her Amritapuri ashram, where over 10,000 children participated. Amma's vision for rehabilitation is not simply limited to providing food, clothing, and shelter, but aims to provide for every aspect of well-being, material, emotional, and spiritual, giving the disaster survivors a strong foundation for the future. The President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, inaugurated the evacuation bridge built by Embracing the World. The bridge was constructed as an escape route capable of evacuating 15,000 people in 30 minutes, should another disaster befall the community.
Every time I come Amritapuri, a unique thing I found. What is that unique thing? That is give. Go on giving. And give and go on giving. And giving, this Amritapuri gets the pleasure, happiness. And the message what for people like us, the people who are sitting there, what you get, the giving is indeed happiness.
President Kalam was so impressed by Amma's capacity to effectively manage humanitarian funds that upon taking office as president, he donated the first 10 months of his salary to Embracing the World. The bridge is a symbol of unity and love. It can remove the feeling of I am from this side and I am from that side.
International NGOs, UN agencies have something to learn from the work of Amma and what she has been able to build. How much of the resources mobilized to support those in need go to those who are providing support, the personnel, whether UN agencies or NGOs? The overheads tend to be quite high. How much of the money which is mobilized actually goes and benefits directly those in need? This is remarkable. It's very striking for me how she managed to get that formula right.
In the aftermath of the tsunami, the fishing patterns were disrupted and the fishing boats were coming back empty. Embracing the World's Empowering Women program was initiated as part of Amma's effort to help the survivors find alternative means of income so they were not so dependent on the sea. Soon, the program expanded to benefit other women as well. Since then, we have provided more than 100,000 economically vulnerable women throughout India with vocational training, startup capital, and marketing assistance, as well as access to microcredit loans from government-regulated banks and affordable insurance plans. The women use these assets to form self-help groups, share micro-savings accounts, and start their own home-based businesses. For most of the women, it is the first job they have ever had. This turned out to be a smart investment. Research has shown that empowering women with equal economic opportunity is one of the most effective means to reduce poverty throughout entire communities.
Amma has dedicated herself in making impact in people's lives. She has been doing it in a way of being in touch with people, trying to see how to address their pain, how to make them overcome their troubles. And alongside, she has very concrete programs. If you see one side of Amma, you have not seen it all, because her concrete part is very solid, like all the microcredit activities that she has undertaken, all the housing activities she has undertaken. She has done more work than many of the governments ever did to their people.
In recent years, suicide has been spreading like an epidemic among farmers in India, who suffer from debt and crop failure. Often, seeing no hope for themselves or their future generations, whole families commit suicide together. In 2007, Shri Vilas Rao Deshmukh, then Chief Minister of Maharashtra, the state worst hit by the suicide epidemic, reached out to Amma for a solution. Amma responded with a project to provide scholarships for children in the affected communities. Through providing scholarships to children of farmers living below the poverty line, Embracing the World aims to lay a stronger economic foundation upon which these families can base their lives. The scholarships give the children new options to break out of the cycle of poverty and give hope to the whole family, thereby working to prevent suicide. Embracing the World is currently providing scholarships for 51,000 children. The goal is to reach 100,000 children throughout India. In 2009, the scholarship recipients were brought to Amritapuri ashram for a comprehensive self-empowerment seminar where they received their scholarship checks directly from Amma.
The Amrita Speech and Hearing Improvement School is one of the few schools in Kerala that scientifically teaches hearing-impaired children to speak. The students work hard to overcome the limitations created by their speech and hearing disabilities. The school's curriculum is structured to enable the children to interact with others confidently and lead a full and productive life. More than 120 children attend the school. The children have a 100% pass rate in the secondary school leaving certificate exam and do very well in obtaining employment. The Amrita Institute for Differently Abled is dedicated to providing education for differently abled children, including those with Down syndrome, epilepsy, autism, and intellectual developmental disability. Proper developmental therapy, incorporating daily skills, early social integration, and schooling are provided. The programs provide these children with basic life skills and fundamental concepts that will help them function as independently as possible on a day-to-day basis. The Institute's teachers have created many different outlets for creative expression for the children. They have often discovered that while the children may not excel academically, they possess hidden talents. Properly cultivated, these talents can be nurtured into skills they will be able to use to make a living in their adult life. Amrita University's research program is entirely focused on initiatives that have concrete social impact and directly benefit people in need. Our scientists are innovating new applications for existing technology and inventing entirely new products and approaches to solving some of the world's most pressing problems, from disaster management to ensuring access to education to the management and cure of disease. Projects include the world's first ever wireless sensor network system for landslide detection, tablet-based learning programs offered in rural communities nationwide, state-of-the-art low-cost biomedical devices, virtual laboratories for students in educational settings with limited access to physical labs, and more.
It's not just another university, very high quality, world-class university, and focusing on technology, focusing on research. It's out of the way completely. And dealing with very concrete issues, not some academic frontier searching research. It's not like that, which has immediate application.
The university is working in partnership with more than 30 leading universities worldwide, including Stanford, MIT, and the University of Tokyo. Following the immense success of the French film Darshan, on October 7, 2007, Amma was invited to Cinema Verite Film Festival in Paris to receive an award for her extraordinary work towards establishing world peace and harmony. World-renowned Hollywood film actress Sharon Stone presented the award to Amma. When the Koshi River overflowed its banks in 2008, half the state of Bihar was left underwater, causing 1 million people to be rendered homeless and in desperate need of immediate aid. Ames Hospital dispatched teams of specialists and paramedics who treated more than 500 patients daily. The medical team remained in Bihar for more than 2 months, treating 50,000 people through 100 medical camps. With a dual focus on rapid response and extensive long-term rehabilitation, Embrace in the World has developed a reputation for being first on the scene and the last to leave, long after the media spotlight has faded away. Amma's empathy and concern for the disaster survivors is so complete that she responds to every aspect of their situation, not only fulfilling their material and emotional needs, but also keeping an eye on their future. Our provision of long-term support for disaster survivors has carried thousands through the darkest periods of their lives into the light of a hopeful future. 1,500 flood survivors were housed in 7 temporary shelters. Thousands of tents, blankets, and tarpaulins were distributed, along with cooking stoves and vessels, food, clothing, and school supplies. Altogether, $465,000 was spent on providing aid for the survivors. Our volunteers have provided immediate aid and long-term rehabilitation for survivors of the Gujarat earthquake in 2001, the Kashmir earthquake in 2005, the Mumbai floods in 2005, and Cyclone Aila in West Bengal in 2009. In the United States, after Hurricane Katrina, Embracing the World donated $1 million to the Bush-Clinton Katrina Fund in aid to help the survivors. In 2010, we responded to the earthquake in Haiti by sending several shipments of emergency relief supplies and providing food and scholarships for children affected by the disaster. With the help of principals at 3 different schools, our volunteers identified 30 children who, having lost parents or other relatives, had been unable to return to school after the disaster. Their families could no longer afford to pay for their school-related expenses. Embracing the World is now providing for the children's well-being, including educational and living expenses. With the support of these funds, all 30 children were able to return to school.
One in 6 people alive today lacks adequate shelter. As a result of poor shelter, polluted water, and inadequate sanitation, 50,000 people, mostly women and children, die each day. Living in thatched huts that leak during the rainy season, poor village women often spend entire nights mopping rainwater out of their living areas. Shelter isn't their only problem. They can't afford even a single square meal per day. With no jobs in many rural areas, they don't have enough money to pay for transportation to a medical clinic when they get sick. Paying for school supplies to keep their children in school is out of the question. In 1997, Amma responded by initiating a house building project with a goal of building 100,000 homes throughout India. To date, more than 45,000 homes have been built in over 75 locations. The homes are given free to needy people who had previously been living in slums, thatched huts, or without any shelter whatsoever. More than constructing houses, Embracing the World works to build entire communities, complete with town halls, roads, electricity, wells, sewage systems, and clean drinking water. In 2009, the Indian states of Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka were ravaged by unprecedented floods. The flooding destroyed millions of acres of crops, displacing 2.5 million people. In response, Embracing the World announced a $10.7 million relief package for the flood survivors. As part of this package, 1,000 new homes were pledged for those who had lost their homes in the disaster. In 2012, volunteers from the Japanese student organization IVUSA also traveled to the site to help with the reconstruction. Some of the students had lived through the earthquake and tsunami in Japan and had been touched by the volunteer efforts of embracing the world there. They saw this trip as their opportunity to give something back. By 2012, all 1,000 houses had been completed and handed over to the refugees. 3 community centres were also constructed in the area.
On Amma's 3rd visit to Kenya in 2011, she was welcomed by the Vice President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka. Amma was there to officially inaugurate Amrita Watoto Boma, a care home for more than 50 children. Spread across 11 acres on the banks of the Athi River, Amrita Watoto Boma provides shelter, food, education, and healthcare in a loving environment, managed and run by Embracing the World volunteers. Facilities include dormitories, classrooms, a playground, sports facilities, and a medical clinic. The children come from across Kenya, identified with the help of the Kenyan government's children's officers, as well as social workers, village chiefs from poor slums, and references from local church pastors. In addition to the children's home, 2 other projects were inaugurated. The Amrita Vocational Training Centre, equipped with 35 computers, was built to serve the population of the nearby slum settlement, Jam City. In the centre's first course, 50 young adults who had been forced to leave school at a young age received training in basic computing. Beyond the training itself, course participants say the centre has become like a second home for them. To get drinking water, residents in the local area are forced to walk long distances and often pay to get water that is safe to drink. Until now, most people drank and cooked with water from the nearby river. 80% of disease in the community is caused by the consumption of unsafe water. To solve this issue, the Amrita Drinking Water Distribution Project was implemented to provide clean drinking water on a daily basis to all residents of the Jam City slum, as well as members of the Maasai tribal community.
Throughout her life, Amma has been expressing deep concern for the environment. She has publicly called on all of her admirers and devotees to take concrete steps toward the restoration of nature's delicate balance, including conservation of resources, reforestation efforts, and lifestyle changes. By encouraging sustainable living principles in all Amrita institutions, Amma and her volunteers are sowing the seeds of a better future. Through Green Friends, our international environmental wing, our volunteers promote local participation in conservation efforts worldwide. Several of our projects and events have been formally recognized by UNESCO as part of the UN Decade on Education for Sustainable Development. Green Friends is also a member organization of the UN Billion Tree Campaign. Our volunteers have planted more than 1 million trees worldwide. The Amma Bharatam campaign is a program aimed at improving public health and at restoring India's physical beauty. Through this campaign, Amma is calling on all citizens of India to embrace practical new initiatives to clean India's public spaces, promote health through hygiene, sort garbage, recycle, and properly dispose of waste. The campaign is also working to make people more aware of the need to avoid littering, spitting, and urinating in public, and to maintain environmental cleanliness. This awareness campaign is ongoing in every language and every state in India, and has already reached millions of people nationwide. Embracing the World is also distributing handkerchiefs to more than 1 million school children and educating them to use them instead of spitting on the ground. Throughout her life, Amma has always led by example. During her visit to Kolkata in 2013, after giving darshan for 12 hours, Amma left the stage and walked straight out onto the busy city street on which her ashram is situated, in order to personally inaugurate the Amma Bharatam campaign in Kolkata. Amma spent 3 hours raking, shoveling, and bagging garbage, along with more than 800 volunteers. When they were finished, a 3-kilometer stretch of the road was spotless.
Sabrimala is one of the world's most visited pilgrimage locations. Plagued by inadequate waste management, Sabrimala was in dire need of cleaning in advance of the 2011 pilgrim season. The government of Kerala reached out to Amma for help. Amma sent 5,000 volunteers who rolled up their sleeves and spent 3 days cleaning the grounds, removing 50,000 bags of waste and allowing Sabrimala to open its doors to millions of pilgrims. Amma's unique spiritual mission has always been marked by a profound emphasis on selfless service as the true worship of God. It is Amma's conviction that each of us has a responsibility to lend a helping hand to those less fortunate. Amma teaches that everyone, rich or poor, has the power to make a difference in the life of another, and that no selfless gesture is insignificant. Rather, it is the selfless actions we perform for one another that hold the keys to true peace. But Amma points out that helping others is not only the right thing to do, it's also the secret to a deeply fulfilling life. For the more our sense of self expands to include others, the happier we will be. Amma has taken this process to its ultimate conclusion. She sees herself in everyone and in all of creation. And her message to us is that this way lies happiness, this way lies peace, and this is a path each of us can tread.
Amma says human beings are not isolated islands, but like beads connected on a single thread of love. Likewise, Amma feels it is the combined efforts of all of her children working together in unity which has made all these charitable projects possible.
The State University of New York bestowed the doctorate upon Amma in recognition of her tireless efforts on behalf of global peace, for her commitment to education, and for the far-reaching impact of her charitable organizations in relieving poverty and human suffering in India and around the world.
The University at Buffalo is privileged to confer upon her the State University of New York Honorary Doctorate in Humane Letters.
The 2011 Tohoku earthquake was the fifth most powerful earthquake in recorded history and triggered a devastating tsunami with 40-meter waves. Nearly 16,000 people lost their lives, and almost 130,000 buildings were completely destroyed. Within 3 days of the disaster, Embracing the World sent its first group of volunteers to the affected areas to assess the situation on the ground and to distribute food and water for the refugees. After working near the disaster's epicenter, our relief teams soon focused their efforts on Rikuzen Takata, a remote coastal town of 23,000 people in dire need of support. Located more than 150 kilometers from the nearest major city, Rikuzen Takata was hit hard by the earthquake and tsunami, but had not been getting the help it needed. Later that same year, during Amma's visit to Japan, she announced a $1 million donation to help pay for the education of children who had been orphaned by the disaster in the prefecture of Miyagi. Amma then made an unscheduled stop in one of the tsunami-affected areas of northern Japan. Amma visited one of the relief centers for refugees, where she embraced and consoled each resident, offering them her shoulder to cry on. Knowing that the residents had lost everything, Amma presented household items for their material support and to help improve their life at the center. Amma traveled through the worst-hit areas of Shichigahama coastal region to get a clearer understanding of the magnitude of the destruction. Upon reaching the beach area, Amma led her tour group to the water's edge to pay their respects to those who had lost their lives. The offered flowers were carried out to sea, along with everyone's prayer for peace and harmony.
In June 2013, a multi-day cloudburst over the North Indian state of Uttarakhand caused devastating floods and landslides in the country's worst natural disaster since the 2004 tsunami. According to the figures provided by the Uttarakhand government, more than 5,700 people were presumed dead, and almost 100,000 pilgrims and tourists were trapped in the valleys. From July 1st to July 20th, Embracing the World volunteers provided free medical consultations and medicine to approximately 8,000 people in the disaster-struck area. This was carried out in the base camp in Agasthyamuni, as well as a number of other villages. Through its 500 million rupee relief and rehabilitation package, Embracing the World will build approximately 500 houses, the sum total of all the homes destroyed by the flood, in 42 selected villages in the districts of Rudraprayag and Uttarkashi. These homes will be built on common sites provided by the Uttarakhand state government. Over the course of 2 years, in a project funded in part by the United Nations Democracy Fund, Amrita University's Ammachi Labs empowered more than 3,000 women with its unique blend of computerized vocational training and life enrichment education. The women have had a remarkable success, earning a combined total of over 1 million rupees in product sales. Through this integrated curriculum, Ammachi Labs graduates are not just employable women, but are also committed to playing a greater role in a democratic process and giving back to their community.
The Ammachi Lab is the most creative way of empowering women. Of all of the projects which the UN funds around the world, this is the one dearest to our heart. It's the one we're most proud of, and it's the one that we intend to take to the rest of the world so that they can learn from what you have achieved. Congratulations to Ammachi Lab, to the university, and to all of you.
In 2014, Amma participated in Stanford University's Conversations on Compassion series. She answered questions posed by neurosurgeon Dr. James Doty, the founder and director of the university's Center for Compassion and Altruism Research and Education. The hour-and-a-half-long dialogue took place in Stanford's 1,700-seat Memorial Hall and was the most attended event in the series' history.
Compassion is the most important factor in our lives. It is the first step. If we take this step courageously, without fear, then all of our decisions and subsequent actions and their results will have a special beauty, spontaneity, and power. Human calculations may be wrong, but actions born of true compassion can never be wrong, because compassion is the law of nature, the power of God, the heart of creation.
And it's because of this.
If we tune the individual mind with compassion, then we as individuals are no longer really performing actions, but are merely allowing
From the beginning
creation
of
to
life as
act
well
through
as the
us.
end, everything is based in compassion.
And this is the power of compassion. In truth,
when our love
the
becomes
spiritual path
one,
both
love
begins
attains perfection,
and
that's when the
ends
flower of
with compassion.
blossoms.
He is concerned by helping people. He helps skilled artisans in the creation work
According to the 2014 Global Slavery Index, around 36 million people are currently trapped in modern slavery and are being exploited for personal or commercial gain. In December of the same year, Amma joined Pope Francis and 10 other world-renowned religious leaders in the Vatican for an initiative to eradicate modern slavery and human trafficking. This was the first time that leaders of the Christian, as well as Buddhist, Hindu, Jewish, and Muslim faiths jointly committed to stamp out slavery from the world and signed a joint declaration of religious leaders against modern slavery. In the wake of the devastating earthquake in Nepal, Amma sent representatives to deliver immediate relief and evaluate options for longer-term aid. Within days of the disaster, we distributed truckloads of basic provisions, including rice, wheat, lentils, and cooking oil, as well as essentials such as blankets, windbreaker jackets, and soap. The Nepalese army has been instrumental in helping us with maintaining our stocks and tracking the needs of each individual camp of survivors. In response to a need for medical care, we have donated 2 tons of essential medicines, surgical items, and 100,000 doses of anti-tetanus toxoid vaccine. This was the largest single donation of tetanus vaccines to Nepal from any organization worldwide. On July 8, 2015, Amma gave the keynote address during the Conference on Technology and Sustainable Development at the United Nations in New York. Amma's address was stressing the participants of the Amrita University's core tenet, progress that is driven by compassion and understanding for all people. Amrita University has committed itself to the development of technologies to address these very concrete needs, without forgetting that human happiness and well-being also has a spiritual dimension. Amrita and our fellow researchers presented a few of these solutions in progress to over 700 representatives from 93 international universities at the conference that Amrita co-hosted with the United Nations Academic Impact Programme. On the 11th of September 2015, Amma presented India's Minister of Finance, Shri Arun Jaitley, a cheque for $15 million for the construction of toilets in the poorest villages surrounding the Ganges River, as part of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi's Swachh Bharat, Clean India, and Namami Gange, Clean Ganges projects. efforts to end the life-threatening diseases affecting millions of Indian citizens, stemming from contaminated water sources caused by widespread open defecation. On the night of December 1st, 2015, incessant heavy rain flooded the many low-lying areas of the city of Chennai. Hundreds of thousands of people were affected, and in some areas, water levels rose to approximately 40 feet deep. Embracing the World donated $750,000 towards the Chief Minister's Relief Fund for support and rehabilitation activities. On behalf of Embracing the World, Swami Ramakrishnanandapuri met Dr. J. Jayalalitha, Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu in Chennai, to present the donation. From December 1st, around 500 volunteers, including students and staff members from the Amrita University campuses, have been involved in relief activities. To date, the volunteers have assisted with rescuing the stranded, distributing food, medicines, utensils, stoves, clothes, blankets, toiletries, and other essential provisions in badly affected areas. A telemedicine mobile unit, 2 fully equipped ambulances, and a 25-member team of doctors and paramedics from Amrita Institute of Medical Sciences reached Chennai and immediately started providing urgent medical support and preventative measures to avoid the outbreak of any epidemics. When Amma visited Kenya in April 2016, she launched the Amrita Solar Village project. Amrita Solar Village provides power for lighting, heating, water supply for sanitation, and irrigation, dramatically improving the quality of life in 5 villages in the Athi River Basin. In conjunction with Amrita Watoto Bomma, solar-powered lighting was provided to the children to enable them to study at night and light their homes. Ayudh, Embracing the World's international youth movement, also launched the White Crane project, aimed at providing visually impaired children across 8 blind schools in Kenya with white walking canes. So far, the project has reached 580 visually impaired children across Kenya. Due to persistent poverty and lack of access to medical care, people in Kenya tend to struggle with high levels of blindness and visual impairment. Since 2011, in a collaboration with Vision Without Borders, our volunteer medical team from Spain has been holding free medical camps in multiple locations throughout Kenya, performing eye surgeries and providing prescriptions for medicine and glasses. As of 2016, our team has made 7 trips to Kenya and performed 890 surgeries free of charge.
It is amazing what we see in Amma, because here is someone who's bringing so much light and hope, so much goodness to so many people. Amma believes that where there is true love, anything is effortless. So we are truly, truly grateful for this visit, and we look to welcoming Amma to bring love again to Nairobi. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Welcome Amma to Amrita School. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Shiva Om Namah. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya.
Whilst in Kenya, Amma visited Amrita Children's School. Handing out school uniforms and school supplies to each individual child and embracing each one of them, she also spent time singing and dancing with all the children, telling them to pray for world peace each and every day. During celebrations for Amma's 64th birthday, an array of new charitable initiatives by the Mata Amritanandamayi Math were being presented. The President of India, Sri Ram Nath Kovind, inaugurated Jeevamritam, a $15 million project which aims to provide clean drinking water for 10 million villages throughout India. Within 1 year, the Math plans to install 5,000 Jeevamritam water filtering systems, giving 5,000 villages access to clean drinking water. The President also presented certificates for completely free surgeries at Amrita Hospital to some of the beneficiaries. Amrita Hospital in Kochi has provided $94 million of free medical care to more than 4 million patients. This includes 200 recipients of heart surgeries, 70 neurosurgeries, 20 kidney transplants, 5 head and neck surgeries, 50 major gastrointestinal surgeries, 50 urological and nephrological surgeries, 500 dialysis treatments, and 1,000 cancer treatments.